Hi, my name is Olivia Mattis. Welcome to today's program on behalf of the Sousa Mendes Foundation. I'm so glad that you've joined us. We're going to have a nice big crowd today for this very important story. The Sousa Mendes Foundation honors a hero of World War II, a rescuer named Aristides de Sousa Mendes, who was a Portuguese diplomat. He was stationed in France in World War II, and he gave visas to Portugal so that desperate Jewish refugees could escape Nazi-occupied Europe. He did this against the orders of his government. He was punished quite harshly. And later this week, there's going to be a big event in Europe, in Brussels, Belgium, honoring Sousa Mendes and his connections to Belgium, because he was stationed there at one point. He saved many Belgian refugees. And so I will be going there to speak, and that's coming up. Very important event. Right now, we're marking another important event, which is the anniversary of Kristallnacht. On November 9th and 10th, 1938, that's considered sort of the beginning of the Holocaust, although it's after the Nuremberg laws, after a lot of stuff had already happened. But it's a date that is marked every year, and we mark it, we think about the victims, and we think of all that was to follow. Today, we have a beautiful, optimistic story about this couple called the Zabinskis. And they were animal lovers, and they ran the zoo. They decided to use what they knew how to do in order to help people, in order to save lives. So we're going to be hearing from the author of the best-selling book. Diane Ackerman wrote The Zookeeper's Wife, New York Times best-selling book. She's with us today. We have her book available for you. She's going to sign and inscribe it to you. And we have a limited number of copies, so I urge any of you who are interested to put in your orders. We're going to be putting a link in the chat box of how to order the book. We also have with us Slawomir Grunberg, very important documentary filmmaker who's made many films on Jewish subjects. This is the fourth time we've shown one of his films. We hope to work with him numerous times in the future, as many times as we can. And Slawomir is joining us from his home in Mexico, and we're very honored and happy to have him. You saw his short film called Hiding Like Animals. He made a special link for you, a free link, so that you could see it free of charge. But if you want to have any of your friends see it, there is another link that's on his website where people can rent the film for a couple of dollars. And so I hope you'll tell all your friends to see this short film. And then most of all, I'm so honored that we are joined by one of the last living witnesses of the story of the Warsaw Zoo and the Zabinski couple, and that is Stefania Sitbon. She's joining us from her home in Toronto, and she has 3 children and 7 grandchildren, and so her family continues because of the act of bravery and courage of this couple, the Zabinskis. So without further ado, let me hand the floor over to Diane. Take it away, Diane.
Thank you. Well, this is a story that was just beschert, as we say in Yiddish. It was meant to be. I was always a horse girl, and my grandparents, who grew up in Poland, told me that there were extraordinary horses, very, very rare horses running around in this forest, Białowieża. And I wanted to see the horses. But I couldn't get in touch with the forest because I didn't know the Polish alphabet or how to speak Polish. So I asked a friend who grew up in Warsaw, and she said, you know, my uncle was a vet at the zoo before the war. And why don't we just get in touch with him? We did that, and he said, you know, the zookeeper's wife kept a diary, and maybe she wrote about the horses in there. I said, great, go to every bookstore in Warsaw until you find it. send it. And he did. My friend translated it. And I was flabbergasted to discover that they weren't just protecting endangered animals at the Warsaw Zoo, but they were risking their lives to protect an endangered people. I'm going to read a little from the beginning of The Zookeeper's Wife to give you a sense of what the zoo was like before the war. At dawn, in an outlying district of Warsaw, sunlight swarmed around the trunks of blooming linden trees and crept up the white walls of a 1930s stucco and glass villa where the zoo director and his wife slept in a bed crafted from white birch. On their left, two tall buildings and two tall windows crowned a sill wide enough for sitting on, with a small radiator tucked below. Oriental rugs warmed the parquet floor, where strips of wood slanted together as repeating feathers, and a birch armchair squared one corner of the room. When a breeze lifted the wall curtain enough for grainy light to spill in without casting shadows, barely visible objects began anchoring Antonina to the sensible world. Soon the gibbons would start calling. They'd be whooping, and after that a pandemonium would rip that no one could sleep through, not owl-eyed student or newborn. Certainly not the zookeeper's wife. All the usual domestic chores awaited her every day, and she was clever with food, paintbrush, or needle. But she also had zoo problems of her own to solve, sometimes uncanny ones, such as hyena cub soothing, that challenged her schooling and her native gifts. For years, Polish scientists dreamt of a big zoo in the capital, one that would rival anything in Europe, especially those in Germany, whose majestic zoos were famous worldwide. Polish children clamored for a zoo too. Europe enjoyed a heritage of fairy tales alive with talking animals, some almost real, others deliciously bogus, to spark a child's fantasies and gallop grown-ups to the cherished haunts of childhood. It pleased Antonina that her zoo offered an orient of fabled creatures, where book pages sprang alive and people could parley with ferocious animals. Few would ever see wild penguins sledding downhill to sea on their bellies, or tree porcupines in the Canadian Rockies balled up like giant pine cones. And she believed that meeting them at the zoo widened a visitor's view of nature, personalized it, gave it habits and names. Here lived the wild, that fierce, beautiful monster, caged and befriended. Antonina loved to slip out of her human skin for a while and spy on the world through each animal's eyes. And she often wrote books from that outlook in which she intuited their concerns and know-how, including what they might be seeing, feeling, fearing, sensing, remembering. Often dabbling in such slippages of self, aligning her senses with theirs, she tended her wards with affectionate curiosity, and something about that attunement put them at ease. Her uncanny ability to calm unruly animals earned her the respect of both the keepers and her husband, who, though he believed science could explain it, found her gift nonetheless strange and mysterious. In 1932, abiding by Polish Catholic tradition, Antonina chose a saint's name for her own newborn son, Richard, or Rish for short, the Polish word for lynx. Though not part of the zoo's four-legged, fluffy, or winged brigade, her son joined the household as one more frisky cub that babbled and clung like a monkey, crawled around on all fours like a bear, grew whiter in winter and darker in summer like a wolf. One of her children's books describes 3 household toddlers all learning to walk at the same time: sun, lion, chimpanzee. Finding all young mammals adorable, from rhino to possum, she reigned as a mammal mother herself and protectress of so many others. Not an outlandish image in a city whose age-old symbol was half woman, half animal, a mermaid brandishing a sword. As she said, the zoo quickly became her green kingdom of animals on the right side of the Vistula River. It was a noisy Eden, flanked by cityscape and park, and unfortunately for her, she didn't know that her Eden was doomed.
I would like to introduce again the film, which I believe most of you have seen, Hiding Like Animals. The film was produced 10 years ago, and March of the Living Canada was the producer. I was the director of the film. During the educational trip in 2014, I met several Holocaust survivors, and Stefania was one of them. And she became a story of this short documentary, which I would like to just bring a little clip from the trailer. The trailer is 2 minutes long, so please watch it.
I know that my family owned our life to Jan and Antonina Zabinski. Teresa was very happy to see me. We were happy because something bond us.
Very nice to meet you. Exciting.
To moje córki. To jest moja starsza, a to najmłodsza.
Cieszę się, bardzo się cieszę. Jest bardzo istotna rzecz. To było źródło nadawania sygnału o nadchodzącym niebezpieczeństwie. Tak, ponieważ i zarówno ojciec, jak i mama grali na fortepianie, więc wymyślili, że takim najlepszym sygnałem będzie to, jeżeli ktoś siądzie, kto umie grać, do fortepianu i zacznie grać arię Menelausa z operetki Offenbacha Piękna Helena.
והדלת היו סוגרים מצד שני, סוגרים פה וסוגרים מבפנים, אם לא הייתה ברירה והם באו בהפתעה, אז היינו פה נכנסים ושם שווה שסחובת, צריך להתחבות, היינו יושבים, מוישה שם לי ככה יד שאני חד וחלילה לא הוציא ואני הייתי אומרת זה ביום מאמה, יהרגו את אמא.
זה בלתי נתפס.
Oh, how wonderful. Antonina is holding a badger. Badger was the family's favorite animal, Riche's absolute favorite, and they had an enormous number of animals that they raised right inside the house with them at any given time. But he had Badger sleep right in bed with him. And there was one occasion where nobody could find Badger. They looked everywhere. Finally, Antonina looked under Riche's bed, just in time to see Badger pushing out the potty that was there for Riche to use and Badger climbed on it and used it as it was intended. He had become a very human part of the family. And then there is Jan with a monkey. It wasn't, just that they couldn't resist raising animals, or especially orphan animals, because Antonina herself was an orphan, so she really identified. But during the war, when they were hiding people, it was very useful to have lots of animals running around the house. Among other things, they cast shadows, after dark. And you couldn't see the humans moving around so much. And they made all of these crazy noises. So all of that worked as a kind of camouflage. And my goodness, they had wild animals living with them. Next slide. She's wearing one of her many polka dot dresses because she identified, as I said, with them. And they appear to be feeding a little bird there. Jan was the world's authority on the endangered animals that lived in Białowieża. He alone was able to breed them successfully. It was really quite an extraordinary thing. And that was part of the whole key to why the Germans, when they bombed Warsaw, and even though they planned to liquidate the zoo, they decided to leave it open. Because, as you can see, the zoo was very popular, and Jan had an enormous expertise in the wild animals of Białowieża. And in a thrill of romanticism, Hitler decided that after the war, he was going to need pure Aryan horses to ride, pure Aryan animals to hunt, and a pure Aryan forest to do that in. And there was one place in Europe where that happened to be, and that was in Poland, Białowieża. So the director of the Warsaw Zoo became very friendly with the Zabinskis. And the Zabinskis used that contact very successfully when they wanted to hide people. Go to the next slide, please. All right, here is this fabulous horse. One of the original horses, very ancient horse, the Przewalski horse. They call them tarpans also. And they have a black stripe down the back. Hermann Goering, who was the Reichsmarshal, the highest ranking military person in the Wehrmacht, he was a big game hunter, and so was Lutz Heck. And this is part of why they felt that their Führer needed to have this Neolithic forest that would be untainted by any kind of mixed racial blood after the war. And if you go there now to Białowieża, you will see these animals alive and this extraordinary primeval forest where the fairy tales came out of, still there. It's a story of how good can come out of evil.
And now we're going to the Warsaw Ghetto.
Mm-hmm.
Warsaw Ghetto was established actually 5 days from now will be anniversary, because it was set up in 1940 on 15th of November. This was the biggest ghetto in Europe. Almost 500,000 people, 500,000 Jews lived there at the peak, exactly 460,000. In Warsaw, before the war, 30% of population were Jews. But when the ghetto was established, a lot of Jews from different parts of Poland came to Warsaw. Also, when ghetto was set up, Germans brought Jews from different countries, from Germany, from Czechoslovakia. So that's how it grew. It grew to such a number as almost 500,000. Then let's go to the next slide. And then 9 people lived in one room. The ration for food was just hard to believe that people could live. There was huge starvation. People were dying. A lot of people begging for food. And 1942, summer of 92 came, and this is when huge deportation to death camp to Treblinka started, and practically half of the ghetto, 250,000 almost people were sent out to Treblinka, to the death camp. So this is the time. This is the time where Stefania's family, her parents, decided to move from ghetto to zoo. They knew Stefania's mother knew Zabinskis because before the war they were sending food for animals. So there was already contact established. So it was natural that when Stefania's parents were looking for a place to hide, Zabinskis were, and the zoo was the place. So this is how it happened. Stefania was only 3 years old. In 1943, her brother Moshe was 5 years old, and they were smuggled on the cart under vegetables, under some food which was sent out from ghetto to zoo. And that's the story of survival. So we have pictures from the film, actually.
It was beautiful.
This is 10 years ago, Stefania at the gate of the zoo.
My mom was
And with her daughter, one of the 2 daughters, became Orin, right?
an age.
And 2 daughters came with Stefania to first time to see where her mom survived during the war. Stefania was there with her parents, and those are the parents of Stefania, only for 2 months and a half, so not very long. Her father was a very well-known boxer in Poland before the war. When they left, he lost so much weight. It just looked like bones, right? That's what you recall. And this is the picture of Stefania. I think it was taken in Toronto, right? And with your parents. About 300 Jews were saved in the zoo during the period of time. And Stefania, how do you remember? What do you remember from these days?
Like you said, I was small, and the truth is, I don't remember a lot, but I remember that when the German used to came to check up on the ammunition that they put on the earth of the zoo, there was a signal from the gate to the villa, and she told us, look, if I sit on the piano and start to play, you have to hide. And where you hide, she saw us that there was 2 rooms and 2 doors from one side and from other, and she used to close outside, leave the keys outside, that if somebody comes and see that there cannot be somebody there. And my brother used to put his hand on my mouth and said, don't cry, don't make a noise. And I said, I know they will kill Mom.
Have you ever seen any Germans? Do you remember seeing any Germans?
No. No.
And how often your parents stayed with you in the zoo?
My mom, Antonina, said that my mom have to leave, and they found her a place in a village, in a Polish family, in a village near Warsaw. And she colored her hair. She wanted to make blonde, but this came like red. She said, this is not good, but what can I do? And my mom, from then, she didn't come until the end of the war. We were there. My father used to take part in the uprising. And I have to tell you that during the war, my mom got 2 kids in the ghetto. In 42, she got my brother Stanisław and my daughter, my sister on the age of 45, she got Renata. And then we are 5. And that was hard, but what can she do? My brother Stanisław was sent to a nursing home of nuns in a convent, and my sister was with my mom because she was a mama's baby.
So everybody survived, right?
Thank God we are 5 and we're still alive.
Wow.
My brother will be now 90. No, sorry, 89. And I will be 86.
And I remember you were telling me that your father was so well known as a
Yes,
boxer that
yes.
he had to hide not only
We in the ghetto, we was hiding in a bunker because my father was a known boxer, and he made always something on the street. They saw SS with another guy with my father. They throw on them something. And this why my father said the best thing will be when my mom is hiding, because if somebody knows that the boxer did those, they will take my mom and us, then we have to leave the ghetto, because my father survived the uprising, but in 48, he was on a train, felt not good, asked for some water. Somebody go to bring water. When he came, my father was dead already. Then he left my mom with 5 kids. At 33, she was with 5 kids. 9, 7, 5, 3 in 3 months. My last brother was born in 48 in March, and my father passed away in July. Exactly 41/8.
amazing.
And we stuck in Poland because the Jews after the war till until the Israel came in 48. In 47, the Polish government closed the border, and then we stuck in Poland. And 57 came to the government, President Gomulka. He opened the gate and said, "Who wants to go? Please go." And my mom was the first in the line because my brother should go to the army in 57 March. He should go to the army. By 20 in Poland, he took to the army. And when the government said they opened the border. My mom was from the first one to go. In 57 January, we came to Israel.
Thank you very much. There was one funny story you told me when you read Diane's book.
Yeah, I was in hospital, and my friends come to visit me and brought me. There is a story, the zookeeper's wife, and I said thank you very much, and I read it, and then I saw that Diane wrote there that my mom came with 2 boys to the zoo, Viecho and Stefcho. I was mad. I am a girl, not a boy. I write her an email from the hospital. I write her the email that she was wrong. She wrote me that somebody told her that, but in the new edition, she will change it. I will be a girl again. And I would really want to have the book. I will pay, but send me please the book. And like you see, I am a girl.
Diane, it's your turn.
No, I am already an old woman, but then I was a girl.
All right, I'm going to read another excerpt from Zookeeper's Wife. Nazi bombers attacked Warsaw in 1,150 sorties, devastating the zoo, which happened to lie near anti-aircraft guns. On that clear day, the sky broke open and whistling fire hurtled down. Cages exploded. Moats rained upward. Iron bars squealed as they wrenched apart. Wooden buildings collapsed, sucked down by heat. Glass and metal shards mutilated skin, feathers, hooves, and scales indiscriminately as wounded zebras ran, ribboned with blood. Terrified howler monkeys and orangutans dashed caterwauling into the trees and bushes. Snakes slithered loose, and crocodiles pushed up onto their toes and trotted away at speed. Bullets ripped open the aviary nets, and parrots spiraled upward like Aztec gods and plummeted straight down. Other tropicals hid in the shrubs and trees and tried to fly with singed wings. Some animals, hiding in their cages and basins, became engulfed by rolling waves of flame. 2 giraffes lay dead on the ground, legs twisted, shockingly horizontal. The clotted air hurt to breathe and stank of burning wood, straw, and flesh. The monkeys and birds, screeching infernally, created an otherworldly chorus backed by a crackling timpani of bullets and bomb blasts. Echoing around the zoo, the tumult surely sounded like 10,000 furies scratching up from hell to unhinge the world. But miraculously, some animals survived at the zoo, and many escaped across the bridge, entering Old Town while the Capitol burned. People brave enough to stand by their windows or unlucky enough to be outside watched a biblical hallucination unfolding as the zoo emptied into Warsaw's streets. Seals waddled along the banks of the Vistula. Camels and llamas wandered down alleyways, hooves skidding on cobblestones. Ostriches and antelope trotted beside foxes and wolves. Anteaters called out, "Hachi, hachi," as they scuttled over bricks. Locals saw blurs of fur and hide bolting past factories and apartment houses, racing to outlying fields of oats, buckwheat, and flax, scrambling into creeks, hiding in stairwells and sheds. Submerged in their wallows, the hippos, otters, and beavers survived. Somehow, the bears, bison, ancient horses, camels, zebras, lynxes, peacocks, and other birds, monkeys, and reptiles survived. Antonina wrote of stopping a young soldier near the villa at that time and asking, "Have you seen a large badger?" He said, "Well, some badger banged and scratched on the villa door for a long time, but when we didn't let it in, it disappeared through the bushes." "Poor badger," she lamented as she pictured the family's pet, frightened appeals at the door. After a moment, "I hope he managed to escape," clouded her mind. The heat and smoke resumed, her legs returned, and she ran to check on the bristle-maned horses from Mongolia. The other horses and donkeys, including her son's pony, lay dead in the streets, but somehow the rare Shizuowski horses trembled upright in their pasture, and she thanked the heavens for that. Well, it was at that point that the Zabinskis decided they were going to have to do something. And they were so devastated by the persecution of the Jews that they decided they would start hiding them, get them out of the ghetto and hide them in the animal cages and give them the names, secret names of the animals that once lived there. And because of that, and all the animals running around in the house, the underground gave their house the code name of the house under a crazy star.
Wow. This is so fascinating. And the audience questions are piling up, which is wonderful. So audience members, continue putting your questions into the chat box. I will be moderating those questions and asking them in a little bit. Right now, I want to tell you, I want to make a few announcements. Number one is we do have orders pouring in for this fabulous book. So please, if you want a copy of the book, I suggest you order it soon. The Zookeeper's Wife by Diane Ackerman, New York Times bestselling book that became a major motion picture. So we're going to be putting the link in the chat box on where you can order your own signed and inscribed copy. We'll ask you if it's for yourself or as a gift, and we'll ask you what kind of inscription. So place your order and we'll take it from there. We have 2 upcoming programs before the end of 2024, and let me tell you about both of them. Our next program is in 2 weeks on November 24th, and it's called Royals at War. And we're going to actually be seeing 2 films. It's 2 episodes of the same story. It's the royal families before World War II and the royal families during World War II in episode 1 and episode 2. So you're going to see those 2 episodes. The first one will drop a week from today. The next one will drop the following Friday. So you get 2 films for the price of 1. And it tells the story of how some royal families of Europe protected their Jewish citizens, others did not. And so we're here to tell you the facts. And now we're going to show you a little trailer for that film, Royals at War.
As World War I comes to an end, it is time to settle scores. Although the sovereigns are all cousins, they accuse each other of starting the conflict. Terrorized by the prospect of communism, Hitler and Mussolini seem to be the solution.
I wouldn't have liked to be a 30-year-old German woman in those years. I think I would have followed Hitler blindly too.
I'm not going to tell you that my great-grandfather did everything well, everything right. Many mistakes were made.
We reacted much too late.
The seeds of World War II are in place. To save their crowns, the royals must choose: resist or collaborate.
Great. So I do urge you to sign up for that program. And then let me tell you about our final program of the year on December 8th. So that's a program called Here Lived, the story of the Stolpersteine project. The Stolpersteine are a project of an artist named Guter Demnig, who's gone all across Europe placing these stumbling stones, these memorial stones for victims of the Holocaust in front of their last place of residence. I'm sure you've seen them as you've traveled throughout Europe. The film has just come out. It's called Here Lived, and it starts when he lays his 100,000th stone. It's quite an unbelievable project. We'll have Gunter Demnig with us live. We're here to honor him. And so I want to show you now a little trailer of that film called Here Lived.
My father never wanted me to come to this country. He had told us how they betrayed the Jewish people and would say that it would be a mistake for you to even go and visit.
It is not so long ago that our fellow citizens who had taken babies, ladies, men, elderly people, they were taken only because they were Jew.
It's my mother with Marianne, my sister, and I think here she is perhaps a week. I come from a family where the whole family of my mother are murdered in the camps.
Remembrance stones is Stolpersteine. Stolpersteine means, literally translated, stumbling stone.
And for me, that was the idea, bring back the names. The more people step in on the graves, the higher is the honor.
It actually makes people pass by, stop, look at it, and then they realize, okay, there was a problem, there is a problem, and maybe we get rid of anti-Semitism, racism, sexism, and so on.
They were all killed, except for my father and his 3 siblings. They were taken into hiding.
During the war, in a period of 1 year, between 500 and 800 Jewish children were smuggled out of this daycare, and they were saved from deportation.
Great. So now let's get to your questions. So there are a lot of questions about how it was possible for people to hide in cages without being seen. So can anybody explain the mechanics of how that worked?
Well, I can. There were rooms in the back of the cages where the keepers would have where they could store food for the animals and whatever they needed to maintain the cages. So they weren't literally right in front of the bars. They were behind.
And were they hidden with animals, or these were cages that had been emptied by the bombing?
These were cages emptied by the bombing. And then the Zabinskis could give the little boy a bowl of soup and say, you know, I think maybe the lions are hungry, or I think the possums need to be fed. And their cook, even after the war, said that she had no idea what was going on. She was surprised at how hungry they became as the war went on, wanting more and more and more. But she didn't know where it was going.
There's a question of all the inhabitants of the Warsaw Ghetto. How did the Zabinskis decide who to hide?
That I can't answer, except that Jan especially had a lot of Jewish friends from before the war. He went to school with them. He taught them. Stefania's parents were incredibly close friends of his, and other people were too. And so he was in touch with them and trying to help them. A very close friend of his, Tenenbaum, who collected beetles, played a major role in allowing Jan to get into the ghetto. But Stefania was saying that people were smuggled out under the scraps, the food scraps. That was because Jan persuaded the Germans that they needed to keep the zoo open so that he could raise pigs to feed the German army. And he would need to go into the ghetto to collect scraps to feed the pigs. That was his excuse.
Now, Diane, did you have anything to do with the movie? And someone wants to know what you thought of the movie and what was fact and what was fiction. I don't know how much you want to get into all that, but whatever you want to say.
I was asked if I wanted to work on the screenplay, and I said, no, you should actually have someone do that who does it for a living. I have no experience writing a screenplay, but I talked with the producers for years ahead of time to make sure that they were making it for the film for all the right reasons. And for me, the right reason was that this is a story about compassionate heroism. Jan was a hero in the usual ways. He was part of the underground. He was very active. He risked his life constantly. He carried weapons. Antonina didn't do those kinds of things. She never carried a weapon. She decided that she wanted the people living with her, hiding at the zoo, to survive the war with their humanity intact. Otherwise, they'd be too traumatized to have a life. And to that end, she brought them out after dinner, and there was music. They had companionship. She was trying to humanize their environment as best she could. And there are stories like this happening every day in our war-tossed world, but we don't hear about them.
So, Stefania, how old were you? You were 3, right?
Yes.
So do you have memories of other people who were hidden with you and your brother?
No.
And when your mother then had to go into hiding, so who is it who looked after you? Was it the Zabinskis?
Yeah. She used to look after us.
So Antonina was almost like your war mother in a way.
Yes. And when Diane said that she told the kitchen she had to feed the animals, but her son, Richard, one day went near the kitchen and he heard that the cooks talking about why they eat so much, what's happened, there is no food in the, because she always asked repeat for us.
Yeah.
And then after a few times that he came to her and said this to her, that the kitchen speaking always about how they eat so much in this. And then my brother Moshe was sent to a convent, and he was, the priest teach him not to maybe if somebody is beside him, because he was circumstances. And I was given to a family in a village near Warsaw.
And then how did you reunite with your family after the war?
After the war, my father took money and went to buy us. He went to the convent and gave them thank you money and everything. And then he came to the family where I was. When they brought me there, she said, what I will say my neighbors, they know I don't have kids. And they said to her, tell your sister lives in Warsaw and there is a war, very, very hard war. And your sister ask you to take the daughter. And again, my father give them money, took me. And my brother that was born in 42 was also in a nursing home for nuns. And when my mom wanted to go there, she asked her sister, her friend, to come with her because she was worried maybe he died. You know, she went with her. She came in a very big room, a lot of kids on the floor, babies on the floor. And she went around in the look after her son in her friend said, how you will recognize? He was 2 months and now he's already 3 years. She said, if he is alive and I will see him, I will recognize him. And she went with her and she saw in a corner on a not sneak, on a pot, sit a boy and shake and said only ufa, 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 ufa. And she went around and came to him. And her friend said, Regina, come, what you want from him? You don't see he's not normal. She said, he's not normal, but he's mine, and I take him. And the sister, the nun came to my mom and said, yes, this is yours.
I see.
And if you want, take him. And she said to her, you know, all kids were sick and he got all the sickness from the kids. He survived and a lot of kids died. And my mom said, I will take him. She took him and she said to her friend, you will see he will be a soldier in Palestine. And he will not survive till the age. To make a long story short, we came in 57 to Israel. When my brother came to 18, he went to the army. In Israel, on the Independence Day, all the best soldiers in them's unit came before the president. One year, my mom got invited to come to Jerusalem for the presentation. She said, why I? My older brother Moshe was in the army. He was an officer. He called them and said, look, I got an invitation to Jerusalem for the Independence Day. Then go. Not everybody gets. Go. If you are invited, go. And she called to her friends that came to pick up my brother from the nuns. Ruchka, come with me to Jerusalem. What happens? What happened? And she said, I don't know. I am invited. I can bring one person. And my father wasn't alive. Then she took her. And then they call the names of every unit. And then they call Shmuel Königswein. And my mom almost fainted. Of course. And she said, you are a Neviah. Miracle? No, that my mom is, how she knew that he will be in Palestine. Yeah. And now he's not only soldier in Palestine, in Israel, on the best in his unit.
Wonderful. So we're getting to the end of the hour. In just a minute, I'm going to ask each of our panelists for their final thoughts, but I have one more question for Stefania. Stefania, your war mother for that period of time was Antonina Zabinska.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you have any memories of her that you can share with us.
Really? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. No. I just met with Teresa, her daughter that was born during the war. In the zoo, in a room, is a crypt.
Sarcophagus? No?
Yeah, music.
Oh, carriage.
A carriage, what my father brought for her when Teresa was born.
But something...
There is a room, our pictures, my parents' pictures, and everything what
like when you left.
Like was ours, there is.
Wonderful. Let's now have Stefania say whatever final words you'd like to leave our audience with today.
That we always say never again, but never again is today. I'm very sorry, but when I saw on the TV at 7th October what happened, I said, this is the Shoah. I was sick. I really was sick. And I don't understand how the world reacts for this, what now happened in Amsterdam.
Yeah. Seems never ending, never ending.
Never ending.
Diane, maybe you can end us on a more positive note.
While I was researching the book, I decided to read interviews with all of the rescuers in Poland. And I was surprised that they all said exactly the same thing that Jan said. I didn't do anything special. I did what anybody else in my position would do because it was the right thing to do. It was the moral thing to do. And there were people all over Poland and all over Europe who were performing these extraordinary feats of mercy and heroism and risking their lives because they believed in the goodness of people and in compassion, and that it was their duty to help strangers in distress. And I think they set a wonderful example, the Zabinskis, for how to do that.
Great. Well, we certainly need those examples today. So thank you to our illustrious panel. Thank you to our wonderful audience that comes week after week. And so do sign up for those programs. If you like what we do, we also have season tickets available for either of these programs. There's an option to sign up just for the program or for the whole season. So I do urge you to get season tickets, and I thank you all. I wish you a wonderful day and see you next time. Be well, everybody. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.